Hello, thank you for joining us. Next up on stage we have Joachim, VP for Enterprise Architecture and Head of CBA-Lab at our gold sponsor, CBA-Lab. So Joachim joins us to discuss how enterprise architecture is key to collaboratively designing the sustainability transformation. Welcome, Joachim.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Could you understand it clearly? I give it a try.
There we go.
Now it's better. Extra pumping up the volume because of lunch break. So sorry for that. So yes, thanks. Having the opportunity today to talk about enterprise architecture capability used for sustainability transformation. And I'm Joachim Schmieder, VP and Head of the Enterprise Architecture at the Schaeffler Group. It's a global responsibility directly reporting to the CEO, so outside of the IT, because we think enterprise architecture, digitalization is a thing applies to all of us. And that's why it's a discipline outside of the IT, where we have to make the digital transformation as well as the other business transformation across organizations using digital technologies and digitalization as such. My second role is chair of the CBA-Lab, which is an association of roles like me from other top companies in Germany, Austria and Switzerland, where we share the same opportunity using enterprise architecture as a transformation capability in our companies. And it's cross industry. We have the same questions but different business contexts. And the good thing is, as an architect, if you know how things are dependent, looking from different angles, you're getting better ideas. That's why we're collaborating in an NDA disclosed environment, share information, so from experts to experts. And we're not only collaborating, share experience, but also we generate knowledge and share knowledge. Because the only thing which becomes more if you share it is knowledge. And that's why we want to push it, and that's our theme. Cross business, I told, but also lab. Why lab? We don't want to talk about it, we want to do it. We want to really create together solutions for our questions we have in organizations, using the different angles and come with new solutions. That's why CBA-Lab is the key enterprise architecture community, where if you are interested, we have a booth where we can also see what we are doing in detail, discuss whether you can or how you can contribute in that as well. Just a quick capture from our last membership in early spring. So it's a lot of momentum in. We are really generating a lot of momentum, insights, experience, which helps us back in our companies to drive the transformation and the change. This is for us a good community with a lot of expertise, which we are able to connect and use in our terms. When I look to our roadmap, that's just a snapshot out of it, and I used a Gartner cycle or Gartner diagram for it, from a declining focus to a growing focus. Classical enterprise IT architecture, where we document our landscape, etc., is a thing you have to do. It's a mandatory thing, but when it's getting better in terms of business transformation, business impact, business value, it's the more things on the left. Digital technology foundations, product coordination, orchestration, as well as digital business strategy. And you see a snapshot of our portfolio, what we are doing in the CBA-Lab, which is more dealing with the transformational aspects. And that's very important because we have to think that through ahead of the demand, where we all go back to our organization, prepare our enterprise architecture to tackle exactly that space. Because this is the high value space where enterprise architecture could provide value add and a really business transformation capability. And we are really shaping this kind of corner with our portfolios, which we are collaborating, generating deliverables, insights, share that among the members and drive that enterprise architecture discipline as such in the market. A few back, everybody's talking about transformation. Digital transformation, sustainability transformation, e-mobility transformation. They have all one in common. You can't tackle it from only an IT perspective. You have to think about business models, the market environment, the business processes, the data in different levels, IT, applications, technologies, and for sure, tons of changes happening in parallel. So we have to think more in dependencies, not only in IT, but also we have to come from bottom up, top down, vice versa, right to left. And that's the thing. Technology is out there, we can use it. We all are experts in that. But we have to translate what technology, digitalization can bring and business value add, or even trigger in a collaborative manner the business in order to understand the business needs, capabilities, even raise the questions which we have not raised yet. Trigger those questions to come up with really target pictures, how we can use digitalization for our business transformation. But we have also to understand the market, business models better and connect it to the capabilities we have. That's very important. We as Schaeffler, like in the middle digital in industry, we are a manufacturing company as an automotive supplier, but also an industry supplier with a huge aftermarket business. We are dealing with a lot of complex products, even connected products, mechanical, mechatronic, etc. So digitalization of the complete value chain, including R&D, production in 74 plants, is a key capability which either drives a huge business advantage or we fail behind the competitors. So digitalization can bring a value add when we position it right, but also convince our management, our stakeholders to use it in the right manner and in a scaled manner. And that's why architecture is very important to bridge those perspectives, bring it into one target picture, but also to be able to scale it. Very important. You all know the economy of POCs. We're doing it all over the places. But we have to use that experience and bring it to an architecture which can scale. That's very important. One thing which drives us, and it's also the content of today, using EA for business transformation. Let's pick sustainability. Why? Because it's a really momentum in the market. And the good thing in sustainability, like Andre this morning told us, everything which you can't measure will not be done. That's a hard fact. Yeah? Whenever you can't measure some changes, leave it. It's worthless. Sustainability, it's a good thing, despite of the digitalization, you can measure CO2 reduction. You have to disclose it anyhow and report it, and you can also measure the changes affecting to the decrease of it. And that's a really good thing, because then we thought it through and said, okay, when you can measure it, you need to have data. Then you have to think about where the data is coming from, how the data is connected, and which systems are they located, where to store, where to connect it to get it right insights, but also close the loop to measure and change it. And that's why sustainability is a quite good thing. Despite of the normal digitalization transformation, you can't measure it on atom level. That's a beauty, because then you can really generate transparency. Everybody likes it or dislikes it, honestly. If you provide this kind of transparency to the very tiny bottom of a bill of material or on a product, the organization has to move, because now it's out there. You can change. You can also prioritize your programs to it. One downside of it, in the CBA-Lab we had also a very huge exchange with science, with professors, universities, etc. And then they did a meta study which outlines enterprise architecture has really the potential for business transformations. In different cases, whether this is sustainability, digitalization, or even manufacturing or construction, whatever. Everything which is super complex and needs structure is a typical case for enterprise architecture. In enterprise architecture, you can also name synonymously like chief structure officer. So every complex things, architects can structure, and then you can collaborate and shape it. But on the other hand, we did also kind of a snapshots to Google and said, how often is digitalization named? And it's really increasing. How often is enterprise architecture named in searches? It's completely decreasing. And the fun fact is, why is that? If enterprise architecture has that kind of potential, why do we have a gap here? So we have to work on this gap, because the potential is seen from the scientific world, but when we search for what are people are really looking for, it's really a diverse. When it comes to IT spend, sustainability and digitalization goes hand in hand. When everything could be measured, you need also digitalization, IT, in order to do it and glue it together. Also for McKinsey, funding of digital tech activities is really increasing, very important. And we come in a minute to the sustainability investments, significantly as well. Tech initiatives rise. So when you invest a lot in technology, guess what? Your system landscape gets exploding. So you have to think about what is the architecture, because you have to avoid fragmentation, technical depths, and we all heard it this morning in a keynote. So that's for sure something come up for enterprise architects. Variable cost, fixed cost, yes, the cost for sure is a topic, but nevertheless, we invest a lot of things in digitalization and technology. But also digital capabilities. So technology is one thing, but we need also to make digitalization, digital solutions more applicable to the business, or even let them grow in the business. It's not only an IT topic. When we have a look to the sustainability, first of all, where is the push coming from? Is it a thing like we at Schaeffler, we have our sustainability goals, become CO2 neutral by 2040, in production by 2030, etc. The push is coming from the markets, investors, regulators, as well as employees. So there's a huge push from the market where we have to do things, else we're out of the business. Even our customers telling us, hey, you have to become CO2 neutral and give us a roadmap to develop your product portfolio in this manner. So that's a huge push. It's a must, not a yes, we can do. And even with the employees as such in the war of talents, getting more sustainable is a huge factor. To the bottom of it, significant investment in sustainability. Not only in getting green materials, greener production, purchasing green electricity, but also in digitalization. It's very important. So digitalization and sustainability goes hand in hand. There's a huge push from the market. So also in architecture, we have to understand where the push is coming from. How can we measure? How can we influence it? In order to use our spend in the right manner, to invest in the right things, to make the right decisions for our customers, our regulators, investors, and employees. Very important. So that's the why we're doing it. And we have to translate it into how we're doing it. Interestingly, when we look to the IT budget, its plus minus remain the same. So we have to think about how can we, with that kind of demand, use it in this kind of operating model where we have 74% plus minus stable in run, a bit of 17-18% in grow, and a bit of transform. So the fight for the budget is getting hotter, and we have to think also from an architecture perspective, what are the right projects with the right impact? Can we scrap our project portfolio or even measure the business impact better? We have a huge, even at Schaeffler, we have hundreds of projects. When we measure them to business outcome, we can ensure that's the right business value add, but also that we're doing the right prioritization. Also an enterprise architecture topic where we can use this kind of structures to help our IT, but also our business as such to do the right things with the right impact. For sustainability, it's quite funny, yeah? A lot of pressure from the market and regulators, and what I see in the market is a huge push in reporting. So that yes, well, yeah, for sure we have to disclose. Non-financial reporting gets a new baby, which is called non-financial reporting. We have to ensure that we have the right quality data in assurance, in a quality assurance. That's a reactive part. And the huge push over the regulation is coming from reporting. Reporting needs also data. So now we are looking where data is coming from, also in which kind of quality, because we have to have reasonable assurance by 2025. So that's a good push. But very interesting when you remember the chart where the push is coming from. It's not the regulator. Reporting is the one thing. But what about a customer? Customer, we have to shape the future. How can we decarbonization, or even sustainability is not about decarbonization, but for sure the most focused discussion at the moment. How can we decarbonization our complete operations to the future. And where do we start from? So regulation, disclosures, customer reporting, got it, tick. But how about product? How is that impacting the P&L profit? Which kind of measures from material purchasing, greener production, green product design, or even green location when it comes to our plants? What kind of measures from these areas has which kind of impact to which product, over product to which customer, and also the profit and loss? Because at the end of the day, we have also to earn money to get our salaries paid. And that's a very complex question we have to answer to shape the future. How is this all ending up? We have at Schaeffler tons of roadmaps exactly in these pillars. Are they connected? So. Let's think about it, how the things are ending up. So that's a very high level architecture we are proposing, because all the blue marked dots in the actual IT system landscape, a lot of have or will be adopted to have sustainability functionality. Sustainability data as well as functionality. So we have a huge application landscape and it will be enriched by these functionalities. But we have also new comprehensive applications having more a data analytics, decision making, dependencies character, so management and reporting systems. What they all need to have is data, and data in a connected manner. And that's why we also position the data model very, very prominent in the architecture, telling we can decide whether we integrate all the backend systems, which is an architecture scenario we could do, but nevertheless, let's think about beyond that. Let's think about the data model first, how exactly these dependencies are really connected to each other, and we feed the backend systems of those data and provide it backwards. Because if you do a classical IT project, 80% of your effort is spent on data integration. So let's turn it around and think with a model first approach. What do I need in terms of data and data connectivity or the dependencies to answer which kind of question for our decarbonization roadmap? Then we put all in. With that kind of data model, we have the sustainability use cases because we have the data connected, and then I can play around with scenario building, analytics, even AI, whatever. So we save that multi-dimensional data integration, and we start from a data model first, which is not completely new, but in this dimension new to Schaeffler. And we discuss this kind of discussion on board level to say, this is the architecture and we have to take care of the data, not only for reporting disclosures, but using that dependencies to shape our future in a data-driven manner, data-based decisions. And interestingly, when you start with the data model and using the first insights out of it, you are directly shaping business decisions. Yeah. If I'm doing that, which kind of impact do I have? Which kind of customer and which kind of region? Which kind of P&L impact do I have? What kind of other projects using that kind of decrease measure? This is a connected thinking where we enable and facilitate discussion in the organization across departments, what we should do with what kind of impact. And this is brilliant because then we have this team approach working on a target architecture in all these dimensions. For what kind of impact do we want to decide which kind of investment with what kind of output? And if we decide it, we can measure it. Has it come? Has it been realized? Why not? This is brilliant. When we look to the data model, and this is just also a very aggregated one, we call it sustainability information model, which is aggregation, where we cut all these disclosures, ESG dimensions, together with what kind of processes are impacted, which kind of system, which kind of data in between, and what's the relation between. So this kind of model is completely interactive, so you can click on any element and you see the dependencies. So that's the model visualized left a bit differently and dimensional. This is more in a format which is also consumable for top level managers. But interestingly, you can play around with. The good thing is when you start to play around with the data model, you're getting more knowledge, more experience. You start raising questions. Why is that not connected with that? What kind of projects, here are the projects, what kind of use cases are behind, and then you start discovering the transformation. Then you bring also people together where it's not fitting. Then let's fit it. Let's work together, shape it, do the right decisions. And I don't personally care whether we start from a project and some goals and use cases, or we go to the data model and come to the use cases and projects, or to the process. I don't mind, because it's connected. And all these elements have responsibilities behind. We have data owners, we have application product owners, we have process owners. We bring them together, and we can facilitate their collaboration on the model. With that, we can shape really our target architecture, but we are using all dimensions. And I don't really care with what kind of element we start. With any starting position, we're discovering all elements. And that's the good thing, because then you provide the insights, the dependencies, the interdependencies as key capability and experience to the organization. We enable them in systematic thinking in terms of sustainability across organizations. For sure, also show, don't tell is one approach we do at Schaeffler. We also implemented kind of solutions with it. So that's just a example from Climate Action Plan. Exactly, we have a lot of measures. Which kind of measures do we wanna use and really invest to with what kind of impact? And it's highly dynamical, where the data model is underneath, and I can slice and dice it. I can run scenarios, and also in an audience, let's try these things out. If I'm doing that, what kind of impact does it have it to a customer, to a product, vice versa? What is the abatement curve in it? Do I reach my goals when I have this kind of measures? Do I have even enough measures to reach my goal at all? This kind of question we can visualize. We're using the data from the data model, which we collected from different systems, or even we applied manual data to it when we do not have the data. And we can really use that for running scenarios out of it. One topic, one challenge is, where do we get the data from? You all know it, product carbon footprint data from our suppliers, and we have 20,000 plus suppliers at Schaeffler, and tons of products and materials we supply from them. Do we get the right, or do we even get the information and then in the right quality for them? So it's one thing what we said, we have to think about where do we get the data from our suppliers, not only for sustainability, also for the other ESG dimensions like foreign trade, sanction lists. Do we purchase material from a value from a sanctioned country, etc. There's a lot of things coming up where we have to have the data from the suppliers upstream. We have to think about which kind of channels do we have, or even can we use Catena X as a channel to get the data. So we have to be creative, because there's no portal out there which have 100% of our suppliers onboarded. So we have to think about also their dependencies in architecture, which kind of channels do we have, and we have to enrich or even combine to get the right data from our suppliers. But not as a one-off, but also that they can also share it with others. So we have internal platforms, but also where we are directly contributing, even with 2 architects from my team in Catena X or even Confinity X, because we have to think there beyond the current demands. Challenge number 2 is, how is the data collected? I'm talking about data models, which is not a sexy topic, but nevertheless, it's coming from different systems, and we have to glue it together that it makes sense. And a lot of data is even not there, not connected, and we have to think about overcoming the first 2 challenges. And when we have the connectivity, and these are just a few data objects on the left. This is just a screenshot of tiny brackets of the whole model. We have to think about here how the data is really collected, and from which system landscape does it coming from, and how does it getting connected. And even with the challenge number 1, where does the data come from, in which kind of quality. And that's very important, that an enterprise architect thinking in all these dimensions, from the business, from the customer needs, from the regulations, translate it into data models, translate that into data sources, and think about connecting the dots where the dots are not connected. And having that capability to bring that dimensions together is a structure topic, predefined for an enterprise architect. but more on a strategic tactical level, because we are not talking about which technology am I using. Am I using PCF calculation from SAP? Do I using Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability or even Salesforce? It's not that mandatory, and not that impressive. But we have to think here about the architecture before applying technology. That's very important. Which technology to use? There are criteria out there. You all know them. But this is the conceptual pre-work we have to do. And with that kind of work, you are directly in focus of the top deciders in the company, because we have to provide structure as enterprise architecture to make that transformation happening. Just a normal architecture work where we translate a data model into where's the data flowing, which kind of system and data flows are connected with what kind of processes. You all know the charts, and could be visualized from basically any tool. That's why at Schaeffler we believe digitalization and sustainability goes hand in hand. Sustainability as well as the architecture can really make a huge value add to shape, transform and guide the transformation, because we're thinking in all these dimensions: business, data, IT, technology. And that's why we're pushing it proactively, to have the target architecture, to visualize it, to make innovation programs, but on a fast manner, to convince that this is not only PowerPoint and conceptual work, we have also to convince people that this is really happening and really doable. And it's doable. It's all about momentum. If you have the momentum with that kind of story behind and knowledge, you can really become the change enabler as enterprise architecture. And you can shape with your top peers the roadmaps and the agenda. And they're very happy with it. They're allowing it. And that's a good thing, where enterprise architecture, a strategic technical discipline, can really make a difference. But the downside is it's a bit of a complexity behind. We have to understand first, but also to transport to the audience, to our peers, in a very consumable manner, and then step by step going deeper. Knowledge is one thing, but you have to make it also consumable. And that's a big challenge when you all have this kind of knowledge and dependencies in your brain, in your head, and also in the enterprise architecture team. We have to avoid that we're overwhelming people with all the complexity. That's why you have to get proof points fast. You have to aggregate the information in a meaningful, stakeholder-related manner. And then it makes sense to be part of the transformation, not only receiving demands where you have to then integrate. And it makes fun. That's Schaeffler, what we're doing. Everything what is rolling and gliding can be a product from Schaeffler. And like Granny and the grandson, it makes fun to work on a bigger picture together with all the peers in a topic which is very relevant for all of us living on this nice planet. And that's why enterprise architecture, using for this kind of complexity to provide structure and to shape the future, is a fun thing to do. And CBA-Lab, yes, that's my peers, where I randomly, not only randomly, regularly call up and say, hey, Olaf, what are you doing at Benteler? What are you doing at DAXA? Let's talk about it, yeah, because you have the same challenge. Sometimes we are a bit ahead, a bit behind. It makes sense to use our expert network also in this kind of challenge, which we all have ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joachim. So we do have a little bit of time for questions, if anyone has any. If you put your hands up, that would be great. If you want to hold them, we can answer them after. Just find Joachim after after you've had some food, I guess. It's
get starving.
No questions?
Just give me a note on the conference app. I'm reachable at any time.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joachim.
Thank you. Have a good lunch.
Cheers.